Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over a pretty massive day for Tesla stock after, arguably is a monumental day for Tesla yesterday with the Robotaxi launch. I'll give you my thoughts about the price action, what I expect next, and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I am, of course, not a financial advisor. But I do have a YouTube membership section where, again, I do share my thoughts, my chart updates throughout the trading day itself, options flow, etc. Every single day the market is trading, so definitely check that out. That link is, of course, down below. For just $3 a month gives you access to just the Tesla tier if you're interested. $5 a month adds NVDA if you're interested. Though NVDA, to be completely honest, has been pretty boring lately. And then, of course, $7 a month gives you access to non-Tesla, non-NVIDIA charts I share when I see, opportunities, of course. And on the weekend, I do chart requests with members on Discord. If you're interested, the link is down below. But jumping into a Tesla with an absolutely phenomenal day today, closing up just over 8% on the day. It was actually almost, I think, 10% on the day at the peak, right? If I'm not mistaken. Take a quick peek at that, actually. Yeah, almost 11% on the day, actually, from the highest point. Of course, it did sell off a little bit of it, but nonetheless, absolutely phenomenal day after, seemingly what, at least according to the market, was a fairly successful Robotaxi launch starting on Sunday, which is always a nice sight to see. Now, the question is, well, what happens next? Is Tesla officially, are we in bullish territory, 400 next, or is there some concern? Well, as usual, I'll go over both perspectives. Let's start off with the bullish, let's take a look at the bullish perspective, right? There's definitely some absolutely bullish things to talk about here, naturally, right? But there's definitely still a major bearish situation that I can't fully ignore, which I'll go over. So from the bullish perspectives, yeah, there's a lot of good things happening, right? So going over my typical, perspectives. Am I missing an indicator? Oh, it's this. Typical situations I like to look at, right? Well, we of course consolidated pretty nicely here, right? This was obviously a bull flag. Like I said, bull flags, they usually play to the upside. Doesn't mean it has to, right? We've seen many times where Tesla has set up very large bull flags, kind of like what it did over here, just for it to go down, right? So again, not all bull flags play out like a bull flag. Obviously, this one did, which is good, right? On the 1 hour, you can see we finally broke above, didn't close back below like we did over here, for instance, and even on the 15-minute time frame, right? We had a nice closure above the breakout, still kind of, around that 333 region, but then the second 15-minute candle clearly turned into support, and then it continued higher. So pretty good move overall on Tesla stock from that perspective, which is obviously nice to see. No real complaints there, in my opinion, whatsoever. Maybe even setting up a small little 1 hour bull flag here. We'll see how that plays out. But going to the daily, which is the main focus I want for today, because I want to look at kind of the more bigger picture here overall from the bullish and bearish perspective, right? I think that's important on a day like today. So the bullish perspectives, a stochastic bullish. Finally breached up above 60. That is a good sign on the daily, right? We have obviously the exponential moving averages. They never had a full bearish crossover over here. Essentially, the 821 getting below the 50 never really happened, right? Obviously, despite this, consolidation, it could have, right? This absolutely could have went either way. No one knew for sure. Like, you can't guarantee anything whatsoever. This could have easily came down to 300 first and then maybe shot up, for instance. No one knew. No one can tell you for sure, right? And if anyone acts like they knew for sure, they're just lying. It's just that simple. But nonetheless, those were good signs. They're still there. They're still bullish signs right now. Granted, short term, we are, of course, a little bit on the overextended side on the daily time frame. For instance, the 8 EMA is sitting at 328. We're at 350. So a little bit overextended there. 1 hour, 21 EMA over here, you can see sitting all the way at 336. So to me right now, while still maintaining a bullish perspective, it wouldn't be a complete shock if this actually doesn't play out like a bull flag, and instead we actually get a more sharper sell-off back down, maybe tomorrow, maybe sometime this week, I don't know when, and essentially retest this massive area that, in the past, on the 1 hour, at least in this case, clearly was a massive area of support over here, massive area of resistance here, and, as long as pretty much, in my opinion, this 333 to 335 region acts now as a support and bulls do not lose that area once again, that to me will be very, very bullish, and I think the bulls will absolutely have the overall upper hand. On top of that, I will go over one more thing. A pretty cool indicator here. So from flux charts that actually kind of, also shows trend. You can see, for instance, back when Tesla was skyrocketing, it was all green. Obviously, when it was tanking, it was all red. And now you can see it's back to green, right? So flux charts, it is today's sponsor. I will admit it is today's sponsors of the video, but nonetheless, it's a pretty cool software. They have a lot of indicators, which I have a link down below if you want to check it out with the discount as well. If you use my link and my code, if you will. They have a lot of free ones as well, right? A lot of free indicators as well, but they also have premium indicators like the one I'm showing right now, where essentially it's just a bunch of indicators combined into one. So definitely check that out if you're interested. That is, of course, down below. They have a lot of different overlays you can see over here, from volatility bands to retracement views, etc. So it's a pretty cool indicator. It's kind of all in one. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But you can see this is also showing the fact that, the momentum is green. Even on this dip that occurred all the way over here, it still stayed green, clearly showing that the bullish pressure hasn't fully fallen off just yet. And so far that seems to have been correct. So multiple signs are showing the fact that the bulls are still maintaining bullish control. But like I said, there are still some caveats, right? It's not perfect yet, right? There are still some potential concerns. And I say the word potential because, again, nobody knows for sure if it's going to be a concern or not, right? We can only look out for these situations and kind of be prepared for them in one way or the other, right? For instance, and this is going to be me slowly transitioning to the bearish side, which is kind of combined with the bullish side for now, before I go into the actual bearish situation, which is this situation up here, really, right? This kind of 350, low 350s-ish, around 350, we'll say, give or take about $3, right? So 347 to as high as about 353, give or take $3 from 350 itself. Very, very important. Why is that important? Well, it's important because so the Fibonacci's, which I'll talk about later, but these two trend lines as well, right? Obviously, we had a bit of a issue around this 350 area right here. You can see here we had a false breakout up here into another situation that was clearly a problem here. A lot of sellers present in this sort of low, we'll say 350s region, right? Which had a lot of issues before. That's number one. Number two, yeah, these trend lines, right? There's two trend lines I'm looking at right now. One is more lenient, in my opinion, from all-time highs. You can see connected to this high over here from this recent rejection. And you can see that's the one that we're actually not even closing above, right? We closed just barely under, which is this kind of bottom one right here. But the second trend line I'm also watching that is so far acting as a resistance, which is less lenient. It's more strict in the sense that breaking this trend line will be more bullish, I guess you can say, is from this pivot over here. Again, same thing, connected to this high over here. And you can see that was the high of the day, almost to perfection. Like, you can't even make this up, right? Almost to perfection, the high of the day. So that's going to be those two levels that I'm also looking for. So again, in other words, to make it simple, this pretty much this low 350s region, very, very important for the bulls to not only break above, but also to hold above. And that's going to be what, in my opinion, if that happens, actually does unlock a move to the upper end of this rising channel that Tesla is very much in, which, in other words, also pretty much means the fact that I would not be shocked to see closer to about $400 per share sometime in July. That wouldn't shock me, but we need to reclaim this essentially low 350s level as the next very important level. We got the 333 to 335, which now, as long as bulls continue holding that level, especially on any retest potentially coming up this week even, yeah, as long as that holds, I think the bulls still have that upper hand. And I think, if I had to pick a direction, I would give bulls the upper hand here as long as that 333 to 335 region now continues holding as support. But now let's go into the bearish perspective. Like I said, there's a lot of bullish things setting up, which is all, all good news, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even the MACD on the weekly is getting on the verge of, crossing to the bullish side. There's still some time in the week, of course, but this is the bearish perspective, right? And this is something we've actually been talking about. I've been mentioning this for about a week and a half now. There is a valid situation here that is unfortunately bearish. And what is that? Well, I mentioned before, and I'll continue mentioning it again because it's still valid. And I've been saying this, and I'm not saying this just now. I was saying this when we were still consolidating, etc. But remember how I mentioned we were making higher highs, higher lows over here for quite some time until eventually we made a lower high into a lower low, and we essentially broke structure. I'm sure people that have been watching these videos remember me talking about this. I've mentioned it here and there, several times. Pretty importantly too, this still has potentials of it has potentials of being a dead cat still, but we're in the final stages of it. This is really important, right? Because again, because we broke this low, to me the structure, not to me, but the structure literally broke, right? The structure has broken. And now we can see we pretty much rejected right around that same general vicinity. But the way I like to look at it personally is using Fibonacci. So again, because the structure broke, I like to look at it from the swing high to the swing low over here on a potential bearish retracement, aka a dead cat, into the Fibonacci's. You can see the first Fibonacci was at 618, which clearly put in some serious resistance for about a week and a half. But I always mentioned that even if we break the 618, there's still the upper end of the Fibonacci's, which is roughly where we are right now. And this is pretty much around that 350-ish region. You can see that we're clearly finding a little bit of problems. So in other words, this is why that 350 level is so important, like low 350s, the trend lines, just naturally resistance, right? From before, like I mentioned, these levels over here. But also the Fibonacci, very, very crucial. And why is this crucial? Because this, unfortunately, still has potential issues of being a dead cat bounce. And I've used the NVIDIA examples before. I even have it laid out over here because I was talking about it before with my members. It's the same situation. It's literally the same situation. NVIDIA also had a catastrophic sell-off into a pretty beautiful looking retrace back up right into the Fibonacci's. And I still remember this day. I still remember this whole situation here. Everyone was bullish. Everyone was saying it's going to all-time highs here. Everyone was telling me it's going higher, 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 just for it to collapse. And I was mentioning how this could still be a dead cat, and everyone was saying dead cats aren't this big. Dead cats can't go this far up. This is not what a dead cat looks like. And I'm like, actually, it's quite literally what a dead cat looks like. You literally don't get more dead catty than this. Very fast, very aggressive retracement relative to the drop, essentially, right into the Fibonacci's, especially the 786,826 fibs, which is the green fibs you can see here. And that's exactly what happened. And then NVIDIA, of course, continued making another fresh lower low after that. And it pretty much continued chaining lower lows, lower highs. This, unfortunately, is still a risk on Tesla. Now, again, I don't want to try to ruin the parade here. I don't want to act like I'm some crazy bear now and, or anything like that. And, oh my God, he's just being a bear. No, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. I'm just here to tell you my honest opinions and what I honestly see on the charts, despite obviously some bullish, pretty nice bullish situations unfolding. Of course, don't get me wrong. I just think it's very hard to ignore this because of this potential break of structure that we had here. This still has dead cat elements to me personally. But again, the good news is the fact that we're right around it. If Tesla can start closing candles to make it really safe, 352, 353, something like that, and it can really start getting nice daily closures above pretty much that general range I just mentioned, that's really good. That to me would be very, very bullish. Break those trend lines, break the 350s, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very bullish, completely eliminates this bearish dead cat bounce potentially. And in my opinion, that also unlocks most likely a move back up probably sometime in July to 400. Honestly, that wouldn't shock me to see 400 in July. But we're at probably the most important part here because this right here is do or die for bulls and bears. Either the bears really step in and this truly ends up being a dead cat and we could see a substantial sell-off from here. I mean, who knows what that's going to, what'll cause that sell-off. I'm sure no one thought that would happen on NVIDIA here, right? I mean, go back to those videos. You can even look at it right now. You can even read the comments in those videos. This was middle of February of this year. Go back to those videos, read the comments. Same thing happened, right? No one believed it. Everyone was just, they're like, there's no way. There's no way until it happened, right? Again, I'm not trying to say this is 100% happening. I don't want to fear monger. I don't want to spread FUD. I don't want to act like, I'm not saying this is going to happen for sure. Nobody knows if it's going to happen. I don't know. You don't know. But it is still a valid alternative, essentially, if you will, to a potentially, bearish, pretty bearish, actually, situation that can and still has the risk of unfolding while we maintain below these fibs. So I just figured I'd mention that because it is worth mentioning, especially with this MACD on the daily chart actually still being bearish. So let's see how this plays out, guys. But to me, if we lose 333 to 335, that further escalates the potential of this falling down and this bearish take actually being very, very valid. So in my opinion, this will be an early sign, losing this kind of mid 300s or 330s, I should say. That'll be the early sign. But again, pretty much breaking the low to, honestly, if you want to be extra safe, the mid 350s most likely nullifies this bearish situation completely. And we see 400 most likely as well in July. So that's kind of the situation I see. It is what it is. Let me know what you think down below. But thank you all so much for watching. In terms of options flow, take a very quick look in options flow. Pretty bullish flow throughout the day. Definitely the bulls overwhelming the bears, but bears definitely try to step in several times. You can see here a lot of puts came in on Tesla while Tesla was in the 350s. So bears are definitely trying to step in as well after this rally, got to that 350-ish zone. So it's not as one-sided as it was. In the morning, it was extremely bullish, but second half of the day, it definitely started getting a bit more bearish, right? Or at the very least mixed. At the very least, not as one-sided as you would expect it to at least. And the final thing I'll say is if we go to options selling, now I'm at the bid right now. At the bid implies, sold options. We can't fully confirm if this is a literal sold option in terms of sell to open or essentially buy to close. That's the part we don't know for sure. So I can't say with confidence it's one of the two. But there is a 300 strike bid, which, is a sell. You can see here it says sell. Tesla, 7/11 July, 300 strike. 4.5 million. Now, there is a chance that this was someone, a call option someone had bought and now they exited the position, but this also could just be someone selling calls against their shares or maybe even naked calls, which would be pretty bearish actually, if this is actually the case. So just figured I'd mention that as well. But nonetheless, yeah, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.